Hi everyone, Michele here from michellecourage.com. And I have just got back from holiday from Australia, and I wanted to chat to you about this amazing thing that unfolded, like a galactic quest that I needed to do or achieve or tick off or something like that, and how it unfolded. So I suggest you get a cup of coffee or a cup of cacao like I've got here, and sit down and listen to what I have to say about being a galactic being on Earth and having these pings to do things and then actually going and doing them. So I'll start at the very, very beginning, probably before COVID even. I would say probably a good 7 years ago. I got this ping that I needed to go to Brisbane to the Crystal Castle, like a sanctuary, okay? And I heard about it as where this guy, he's an Australian guy, and he's gone out all over the world and brought back these humongous crystals back to this part of it's south of Brisbane. It's actually not actually Brisbane. I think it's still in New South Wales, top of that part of the area near Byron Bay. And so I've had this ping, I needed to go. It's been on a bucket list, and a lot of people have said, oh, it's so commercial and da da da, and I just I know that, but there's something there for me. Anyhow, beginning of this year, I decided it's time for me to start traveling again. I haven't traveled since beginning of COVID, and I thought I want to go on a quest. I feel the need, I need to do something like this. And I was looking and I saw the Melbourne Spiritual Mind and Body Fair was on in June. And I thought, I think I'm going to go. So I sent out a call to some of my girlfriends and said, hey, are you keen to come? And one of them said yes. Two of them said yes, and one of them had to do the right thing and go to Fiji with her husband, which is pretty tough. Anyway, so Julie said she'd come with me, which is really ironic because Julie is a fellow South African and that I've met, and we have subsequently developed a really close bond, not from the South African, just from through our remembrance. Anyway, so we flew into Melbourne, and we'd met an American friend in Wellington who said, hey, I've got a flat in Melbourne. I've just bought it. It's rented out on Airbnb. Why don't you stay there? Holy moly, what a beautiful flat. If you're ever looking for a flat, DM me. It's right on the tram lanes. It is beautiful, and most importantly, it's got the most amazing hot tub. So we spent a lot of time in the hot tub. Anyway, so we went to the spiritual fair on the Friday. I think we landed on Thursday morning or mid-morning, and spent most of the day in the hot tub, just decompressing. Julie works really hard. I needed to decompress from home, and we just hung around and chatted and whatever. And on Friday morning, we thought, right, spiritual fair is on for 4 days. I'd bought us a 4-day pass, and we went. And I think I put up a picture of me standing outside the convention center. Anyway, so we went into the convention center, and I said, we've got to get there early because at 11 o'clock, it was either 11 or 11:30, there was going to be a light language energetic circle that I would like to attend. I just thought, I really feel like attending that circle. Nothing else pinged for me because they have speakers on the stage and they have all kinds of stuff, but that one thing I needed to go to, which was really interesting. Anyway, so we went into the spiritual fair, and I'm going to be honest, I wasn't disappointed because I wasn't expecting like great things. I did feel it was exceptionally commercialized. And here in New Zealand, when we do have a fair, even though it's not that well attended, I feel the caliber and the caliber of people that are showcasing their work are much more authentic is the wrong word. It was very slick and kind of geared towards getting buyers in. Fair enough, I understand that. But I miss that raw authenticity that you perhaps get at the smaller fairs. And fair enough, I think the stands are really expensive and it has to be done well. So, and you have to be slick and you have to sell product. And if you don't, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So I didn't see a lot of people that were the sort of, anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so we walked around, whatever, and then it was time for 11 o'clock to go to the energy healing light language circle. And we sat in a circle, and this lovely, lovely lady ran this circle, which was so lovely. It was such a lovely introduction and calming of the nervous system and everything. And her company is called Sapoi. And so I bought some of her teas as well. And what I did was I just took out my dowsing tool and asked which teas, because she had an array of about 6 or 7 teas and tea blends, shall I say. And this was the one that pinged for me that I needed. And there was another one that I really liked. So I bought those from her after our lovely energy healing circle. So yeah, really, she's a husband and wife team, and Sapoi is really lovely, and you can look them up on Instagram, SAPOI. So really lovely, and this tea tastes divine. It's really stunning. So there were a few other things. I didn't spend money on anything else but cacao, and I bought this cacao latte, which I thought was absolutely lovely. It's from a company called Real Natural, and it tastes really good as a light cacao drink, just for a nice fun drink. So that was another thing. And then I decided to buy some proper cacao from or more pure blend cacao from a company called I think they're called Sacred. I'm not sure. I think it's called We Are Sacred. The company is called We Are Sacred. And the cacao that I absolutely loved was this rose blend. Oh my word, it smells delicious and it tastes lovely. So I bought a can of that and a can of that, which is the original cacao blend. And these are just blends, so they're sort of more everyday drinking, not really ceremonial cacao. I think they have got a ceremonial cacao available. Really, I enjoyed the fair. We went back on the Saturday morning quickly. It was fun. The flat was beautiful. I will say, though, that coming from rural Hawke's Bay, having been doing a whole bunch of stuff by myself, going into a big city, by day 3, I got quite overwhelmed because I was so open, and I allowed myself to sort of feel too much into everybody's energy. And when you're sitting on the trams and there's so many people around you, and it's a big city, Melbourne is a big city compared to little old New Zealand. Melbourne is a huge city. I think the whole of New Zealand probably fit into Melbourne. I don't know, people wise. It's huge. So yeah, I had to close myself down. So I realized that I think on day 3, when I got myself really a little bit overwhelmed into, oh God, this is just too much. All these people. I remember sitting on the tram and somebody came and sat in front of me, and I could feel into his anguish, and yeah, he was not in a good space. And then I looked up and there was somebody else, and it just got all a lot. So yeah, did a lot of sort of just clearing and cleansing. I never went anywhere without my dragon spray. I used it inside the building when we first arrived. Any building, any room. I used it before we went somewhere. I used it after we got back, just to clear my space, asking the dragons to come with me. And before I set out on the journey, I actually asked Ganesha to come in, as well as the dragons, to open the pathway so that we wouldn't have any obstacles in our way. Boy, oh boy, did that work. And I'll tell you a few little snippets that happened along the way that was just divinely timed. It worked out so perfectly, and I truly believe that calling in Ganesha's energy to open the pathway in front of me made such a difference to our whole experience. And everywhere we looked, we saw Ganesha. If we really looked, we saw Ganesha, a little icon or a little statue or a company that was called, Ganesha, or started off with a Ganesha. It was uncanny. But I know that's not just coincidence. So yeah, the flat was absolutely fabulous. We called it our spiritual bunker because it had such high walls, ceilings, and so well insulated that once you were inside, you literally didn't feel like you were in a city at all. It was so lovely, and thank you so much to Colin for allowing us to stay there. She has an open invitation to come to Riverstone's retreat and stay here as return and reciprocal. So, and the hot tub there, the complex has a hot tub as well, and a pool and a gym. And we spent a lot of time in that hot tub. It was fabulous. Julie and I really enjoyed ourselves there. And then we decided, and then I met my wonderful friend Wendy, who is just the most incredible artist, and we caught up finally in person. She was living in New Zealand and has since moved back to Melbourne, and so we had a great catch up, and that was amazing. Sorted the world out as artists, and deep on our remembrance, understandings. So it was fabulous. And so on the Monday morning, we decided we better head to the airport because we were flying to Byron Bay. Went to the airport, all good, got on the plane, and I was sitting in the plane. And by now I've learnt to shut myself down a little bit, just from all the people around me. And I had my noise cancelling headphones in, and I had my music going, blaring in my ears. Try not to sing out loud because I do tend to do that. And next minute, I felt this huge starburst happen. It went out of my chest like this. And I stopped and I took my earpods out. And I had this distinct idea or vision that I had crossed over some line. There was a line that we had flown over, and bearing in mind, we must have been about 20 minutes out of landing in Byron Bay. So there was some soul connection thing that had happened, because this starburst went straight out of my chest. It looked like an explosion. And what I saw was, before I'd gone, a friend of mine had said, there's a guy that I must really meet up with. He's a friend of hers. If we can connect and say hi. And he's deep on his path of remembrance too. And we'll be able to have a galactic conversation. So I was quite excited about that. Also, I was on my way to Crystal Castle. So, Crystal Castle is just outside Byron Bay. So it was really interesting as I had this explosion out of my chest, this starburst, but it literally shook me. And then I felt me cross over this imaginary line. And then I saw Eli had this burst as well. And I couldn't figure out if it was Eli, because I knew I was going to Eli, or it was at Crystal Castle that was exploding out of my chest. And so I turned to Julie and I said, oh my God, you must hear what's just happened. And she said, oh, that's so interesting. It sounds like a ley line or something like that. And I said, yeah, it feels like that, but I'm not sure. I'll have to do a channeling about it. Anyway, so I'm going to put that to bed just to tell you about the Ganesha, about us landing at the airport. So remember I'd said Ganesha was with us all the way. Get off the plane, and now we're waiting for our bags. And my bag is quite distinctive. It's a green, kind of soft khaki green. It's got labels on it, and you don't see many of those bags around. So, you know, I'm quite confident. All these bags coming out, not mine. There's mine. I pick it up, put it there, stand there. I even texted my husband, said, hey, we landed in Byron Bay. I've got my bag. Julie's just waiting for hers. Not sure why it's taken so long. Anyway, Julie's standing at the other side because I've now moved out of the zone with all the people and I'm just waiting for her. She's standing there where the suitcases come out. And she says, she looks on the conveyor belt, she sees hers, and in front of hers, she sees another bag, and it says clearly on it, Wellington. And she goes, that's weird, Michele's got her bag already, I better just check. So she grabs the bag, looks at it, and it says, it's mine. So she pulls it off the luggage thing, and she tells me, hey, here's your bag. So I look down at the bag that I've got, and suddenly realize, by this time I've pulled the tags off already. I look at the bag and go, oh shit, it's not my bag. And another lady comes towards me and I go, oh shit, sorry, I've got your bag. And anyway, she takes the bag and off she goes. And I said to Julie, Julie, how did you know it was my bag? She said, Michele, there was a label on it said Wellington. I saw it. I said, my bag doesn't have Wellington on it. It doesn't have Wellington anywhere. She says, it's a white sticker on your bag, said Wellington. I said, no, it doesn't have that. So that is Ganesha working through Julie so that I didn't lose my bag, because honestly, we would have gone all the way to Byron Bay, which was an 85 Aussie dollar trip in the Uber with somebody else's bag. So, right, so we're going back to Byron Bay now. So Byron Bay that night, we just booked ourselves into a little motel. It was more than adequate. And we went for a walk on the beach. We stopped at this gorgeous little restaurant, paid a fortune for fish and chips, as you do on the beach in Byron Bay. And then walked back and the next morning, Julie's sister was coming down with her car to collect us to go to Castle Hill. And so that night, I actually sat down, I'm sure it was that night, I sat down and I channeled to find out what this starburst was that I felt when I was in the plane, this big starburst, the starburst from Eli, and this line that I crossed. And this is what my guides say. As you know, I channel and I write down what comes into my energy field, whatever the information that I get. And so on the 8th of June, I wrote, you are right. You crossed a ley line and then an aspect of you came online. They've got online in inverted commas. There was a recognition of Eli as his aspect has been involved before on this very quest. So this feels to me like it's a soul quest that I was involved with. And I have to mention, one of my very first lifetimes I've felt on earth and been and remembered was as an Aboriginal person in Australia. But before fire, it was a very, I mean, when I look down, my feet are very hairy and there's no fire and I'm eating plants and only every now and again eat meat. So it's a long, long time ago in the desert. And it's one of the reasons why every time I land in Australia and the further north I go, the better I feel. I just feel so good. I feel so at home and at peace. It's one of my long-standing things of why, getting to the bottom of why I didn't feel at peace and at home in New Zealand originally when we first arrived. So this activation will be a humming which you have felt for the past few months, which will now settle, which is true. That before I left, for about a month or two before, I had this humming feeling. It felt like a jittery feeling, like and my blood pressure definitely went up before I left. It was definitely just a real, and it's happened before. I feel something's coming, there's an energetic transfer happening or an upgrade or something. So basically this activation will be a humming which you have felt for the past few months, which will now settle. It was drawing nearer, so that is why you felt the fluttering in your body. So I get quite a fluttery feeling in my body, and it kind of feels like weird. It's a weird. I've had it a few times. So then the starburst, as you cross the ley line, was activated, and you will cement it into activation using the crystal. So clearly the crystal was going to be the crystal that I was going to go and see. One of the crystals. So basically I knew that I was going to Crystal Castle, and there was one big crystal that was going to be significant for me, and what I had seen was there was a white one too. So, and I didn't know if it was the white one was the activational crystal, and because everybody goes there to sit in the dragon egg and the beautiful amethysts and that, and I knew the one that I was going to go, which was, there was something to do with a white crystal, and there was a crystal there that was going to be like a big activation. So Eli is the catalytic generator for you to propel your energetic cord or strand outwards. So it's about a shooting out of an energetic cord of what this starburst was. Julie will then carry this to your birthplace and be a placeholder for this undertaking has been in your path, and by answering the call to come to this part of the earth and see the crystal, you are honoring an ancient activation which you have been wanting to put in place as a being for many lifetimes. So I know this was so significant, and that Julie felt the call as well, because Julie is going back to South Africa in August. And I just find it very interesting that she's going back to South Africa in August, and we're probably going to have a conversation around what she's supposed to do when she's there, because she's going down to a part of South Africa that's also quite clear. The grid is quite clear, and we are connected. When we met, we knew there's a big connection. And the interesting thing is, when she goes back, another friend of mine, Heather, who was supposed to come with, she is going to be in Australia at the same time. So really interesting that this 3-part series involving, you know, this whole quest of mine, and possibly the others, theirs as well, is all linked. So it's just fascinating for me. And then it says, it's a rite of passage by galactic standards, the likes of which is hard to convey. So at the time, I didn't have enough time to sit down and actually go into what this rite of passage was. And I will, in a future video, probably talk about that. But know this, you honor your lineage as well as humanity when you answer the call. So sometimes when you get told to do things and they don't make sense, but you just know, and it won't go away, it just won't go away, know that that is probably a soul quest that you're going to be doing. So, oh, I forgot to say that when we were in Melbourne, we actually attended a light show, which was beautiful. It's called the 3D Immersive Light and Sound Show at the Immigration Museum, and it's set to Vivaldi Four Seasons, 30 minutes and it runs until July the 5th. So if you are in Melbourne at that time, before July the 5th, book yourself a place. It was phenomenal. From a light point of view, from a heart expansion, unbelievable. It was just so beautiful, and so it felt so good. The color healing at its best. Go and have a look what it looks like. Look it up. It was amazing. Just say Light Show Melbourne, 3D Immersive Light Show Melbourne Immigration House, and you'll see the connection to it. It was phenomenal. Highly recommend. Pay the extra $3 and the little bit extra to sit on the beanbag, and pay the extra $3 to get led to your seat early. Worth every cent. And go all the way up to the top and past the queue, because if you can get through, you get through. If you've paid the extra, you get through quickly and you get a beanbag. So yes, so buy and buy. Anyway, so back to this activation. So on the Tuesday morning, we're now on our way to Crystal Castle. And I have to say, I will recommend Crystal Castle to anybody who wants to go. Not because of it's an activation in itself. Being around huge crystals like that you would never come into contact with. Some of these crystals have been sourced from, one or two from Madagascar, some others from Brazil, some areas in this, it's just phenomenal what these two people have achieved and done with the gardens. The gardens are stunning. If you love gardening, it's so tropical there. It's absolutely fabulous. The gardens are absolutely stunning. And when we went, it cost us 50 Aussie dollars to go in, and we got a light show, a sound healing show at the same time. It was included. So honestly, worth every cent. Anyway, so pay our fees, in we go, and we're walking along, and Julie says, hey, look at this crystal. And I looked at this crystal. It was one of the first crystals that they'd placed near the entrance. And my whole body just felt like I'd been plugged in. It felt like somebody had just gone zzz, like literally came alive. And I thought, oh my word, this is the crystal. It was a smoky quartz crystal. I'm going to read a little bit about it. It's a large smoky quartz crystal, basically the size, literally probably at least a meter high, and it's huge. It's huge. And basically, this is a 500 kilogram rarest crystal quartz generator. They call it a generator, which I thought was really interesting because remember when I asked about Eli, they said Eli is the catalytic generator for you to propel your energetic cord. So that energetic vortex that was created between me and Eli and the crystal and, presumably Julie as well, that it's a generator. So amazing. Okay, so this rare smoky quartz crystal, yeah, it set me on like buzz. Okay, it comes from Madagascar originally. It's sacred to the Druids, dark power of the earth gods and goddesses. It's linked to the dark power of the earth gods and goddesses like Hecate. So, it was the first crystal that we walked, they've got little pathways and then you walk into this little area and then they've got the crystal there and they've got a board that talks about the crystal. And so I was like I was buzzing already. So then we carried on and we saw the beautiful egg one. So we saw all the other crystals, but they did not do the same thing. I will get to the others that did, but this one just buzzed the hell out of me. And the ones that I thought I would be buzzing, because those are the big amethyst, there's a dragon egg, which I thought, oh my God, dragon egg. I work with dragon energy. This is going to be profound. I felt absolutely nothing. I mean, when I say nothing, it's still beautiful and it's stunning energy to sit there, but it didn't affect me like the smoky quartz one. So we sat in the dragon's eggs. They had a big Ganesha statue, which again, Ganesha featuring again. He was beautiful, beautiful, big, huge statue. There was a stunning labyrinth that you could walk with a beautiful water lily pond. And then like a motive done. Juno, come here. Like a motive done out of a lot of rose quartz or something, some kind of shards of quartz. And there was then we went to the sound healing dome, which was beautiful. There was a lady doing a sound healing there, which was stunning. She was from Brazil and or South America somewhere, and we had a beautiful sound healing, and it was just calming. It was nice and relaxing for me. Then we went into the crystal shop, into where the crystals are. Fabulous crystals, huge array of crystals. Some of them quite expensive because they're really big and rare, and others just the normal crystals, but it's all in Aussie dollars, so it does end up being a little bit expensive. I didn't buy anything on that day. And then we went through to the cafe, and you look out over the whole valley, and there are those two big crystals. I think it's on my Facebook page. I put a picture, or maybe my Instagram as well, a picture of the obligatory picture that everybody takes next to these giant geodes that have been cut in half, and they sort of look like wings kind of story, and people stand in front of them. So from the top of the stairs, I looked at them and I went, oh, that's so cool. I really don't feel like going down. By this time, we'd walked around the whole property, and I thought, oh, I don't really need to go and have my picture taken with the geodes, and either Julie or Lou, who was with us, turned around and said, no man, let's go down, we're here, we might as well take a photograph. And I walked down the stairs, and as I took the last step, my whole world just went whoop. It felt like I had been in a bubble, where you get almost like a bubble that's been blown from dishwashing liquid, and this bubble is turning and spinning. I literally, as I stepped onto the last step, my whole world did this whoop, whoop. And Lou turned, she said, are you okay? I said, yeah, no, I'm fine. It's just, whoa, that was quite intense. And right next to it, behind the hedge, so there you come down the stairs, there's a hedge, and as you go around the hedge, the two geodes are in front of, and facing the two geodes is this giant white crystal. This is the white crystal that I'd been talking about, that clearly was a huge buzz for me, because I literally tapped into that energy. It was huge, and it literally tilted my world on the axis. So a totally different feeling to when I looked at the smoky quartz and held the smoky quartz. It was just and I think it was a recognition of how rare these crystals were and what they were beaming out. So yeah, that was profound as well. Not as profound as the smoky quartz, but definitely it affected me. That energy from those three crystals, the way they'd been positioned, I felt it intensely. It felt like something, like the carpet had been pulled out from underneath me, and I literally did like a backflip on a circle thing. There was like a void circle around me. So that was quite interesting. So Crystal Castle is profound. I really highly recommend going. It was a beautiful morning that we spent there, and highly recommended if you are out Brisbane way. I think it's actually more close to Byron Bay, probably about an hour and a half from Brisbane. Highly recommend going. If you land in Byron Bay, which is a really small little airport, fabulous little airport, it's only probably about an hour from there. So perfectly situated to go and do that. Right, so on the same day, once we left the crystals and I'd been buzzing like crazy, we got to our Airbnb, which was the most beautiful Airbnb, all done in the whole Bali sort of decorated in Bali style. So you walk through one of those proper Bali doors, and because it's tropical in it's near Mullumbimby. You walk through near Mullen or Mullumbimby, somewhere around there. You walk through these beautiful old Bali doors. Inside there's fish ponds with little koi in it, and there's a hot tub again, which we spent a whole bunch of time in. And the place was just magical, and the energy there was so beautiful and clear. They have these huge trees on the property. You can go walking through to a brook. There was a little babbling brook there. I went and walked barefoot on the land there and stood in the water in the brook. I find whenever I stand in water, when I'm on a quest, there's definitely something that happens to my system. So that was amazing. Highly recommend that little place. And dear me, if you want a direct link, otherwise just look up Bali inspired Airbnb near Mullumbimby, and I'm sure it'll come up. And then that night we met up with Eli, who, you know, blew me away. He's just the most beautiful soul, deep on his remembrance journey as well. And he said, well, hey, I think we'll just organize a whole bunch of friends and we'll meet up at this little Japanese place. Now, I was expecting a Japanese place, you know, like New Zealand, how we have, like, because we're literally deep in sort of country, rural sort of, you know, country. And this, I can't even remember the town that we were in. It could have been Brunswick. I think it might have been Brunswick. The most beautiful Japanese restaurant with the most amazing food, and these amazing people that we met. The people that we met that night were so individually on their path and on their quest to change the world and enlighten souls. And yeah, I just had a wonderful, fabulous evening. And then the next morning we left and we went to Brisbane. And Brisbane was awesome. We stayed at Lou's house, a beautiful house near Brisbane. Julie and I had a chance to go into the middle of Brisbane to the city. And, you know, by that time I already like well prepared for the amount of people and whatever. And then we flew home and everything just went beautifully. On the way up from the Airbnb in Mullumbimby, we stopped to put some juice into Lou's car because it was the first time she'd ever used it on an extended trip, and we couldn't figure out how to work the electric. It's an electric car. And I looked up and there's Ganesha, another logo, Ganesha painted on the wall. So yeah, I mean, when we walked into the Airbnb, there was a Ganesha statue. It was just Ganesha was with us all the way. So I thank Ganesha's energy for clearing the pathway. I thank my dragons for keeping me safe and clear and unattached and uncompromised all the way. And yeah, I just had the most amazing journey. And then when we flew back to Wellington, because I flew back to Wellington and then came back on the bus, I had a whole bunch of time on the bus to reflect and listen to podcasts, and came back to a very, very happy husband who had missed me hugely, and my dogs had missed me. And when I went out to see my sheep the next morning, they came bounding over to the thing. Hello, Mom. So yes, all in all, a fabulous, fabulous trip. And if you've stayed till the end, well done. All my ramblings. And yeah, next time you have this ping that you really need to go somewhere, it might be a quest, it might be a galactic quest of yours that you're honoring an ancient activation. Yeah, maybe try and make it happen. And just have this absolute expectation that wonderful things are going to happen, and they do, and they did, and they are still going to come, because the connections that I made there are, I think, just, I'm definitely going to go back there sometime to do some work with the land and work with people there, and who knows, maybe my art will be exhibited there, or something will happen on that side. So yeah, I will leave you to that with those thoughts, and I will chat to you again soon.